Look at all that gorgeous color. My goodness, right? Waves kind of crashing down onto itself. Right in the areas where it's just gray, add a couple little dabs. All right, the more we mix, the more that sandy look you're gonna have. Hi guys, welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did an 18 by 24 inch commission, one of Bob's paintings. He never did it on camera, so we decided to do it on camera and show you how to do it, and it turned out fantastic, and you're obviously excited about painting this one, so check the description down below. Make sure you find all the colors you need. Make sure you get your canvas nice and wet. Get ready to throw some paint on it. We're gonna do it just like this. Hey guys, we're back again. Welcome to Paint with Josh. Let me show you the brushes we're gonna be using. You guys have already seen the painting. Let's show you what brushes we're gonna need. So we need the 2-inch, the 1-inch, a liner brush, a filbert brush, maybe our palette knife, maybe the Bob Ross half round to make some splash, and 2 fan brushes, all we're gonna need for today. Let's go through the colors we're gonna use today. We have our dark Sienna brown, which is the lighter color browns, our Van Dyke brown, which is the darker browns, cad yellow, bright red, yellow ochre, phthalo green, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, midnight black, and titanium white. You can see we've already covered the canvas with some of these colors here, our blue, crimson, black. So we had our crimson black here, blue, and then we had our brown and our 2 color browns along the bottom for our beach. So you and I are going to take a fantastic journey. Again, you've already seen the paintings, and we're about to recreate it. So let's go into our cad yellow, a little bit of our bright red, maybe a little bit of our yellow ochre as well. All 3 of our bright colors right here make the most gorgeous little sunset-y color, right? All these little mixtures. We're going to take our highly technical piece of equipment, our solo cup. If you don't have one, they're like 2 cents. And let's decide maybe our sunset is going to be right over here. And so we're going to go around the edge very lightly. Don't want to have too much pressure, otherwise you'll have too big and thick of a line, right? Maybe we'll blend some out over here, just in different places, right? Maybe down there. We'll figure out where it all goes. Now I want to start pulling in. Let's wash this brush first. Let's get rid of all that thick color. We don't need all that thick color on there now. Now with our dry 1-inch brush, you got to dab it off on a paper towel. Always have to make it dry. That's what I say anyway. Dry 1-inch brush, start bringing it into the center, right? Drag it in, pull it out. Maybe it went down there. But we're trying to leave a little center area right where our sun is going to be, the brightest part of our sky, right? So take this guy, blend him outwards, pull him in, and now we're going to have this very cool bright area right in the center with a couple little rays around it, right? Just like that. Doesn't even matter that our orange isn't all the same. That's perfectly fine. Don't even worry about it. Now let's wash that brush off. Wash that 1-inch brush. We love washing brushes around here. Nice and easy, into the bucket. Got an old golf ball basket. I've got tons of videos where you can see how we clean the brush around here. You guys can go find one of those videos, check it out, right? Okay, let's grab up the old giant Bob Ross palette. We'll grab a little bit of our crimson and a little bit of the yellow ochre just to make a slightly darker color around our sunset, right? Gorgeous. Just have it blend out a little bit, maybe a little under there, a little under here, wherever. Doesn't really matter because it's going to move. It's going to blend as we go, right? Now the whole rest of the sky is going to be blue. But we're not going to have just all one color blue. Got to have all those differences in color, right? So let's grab our big 2-inch brush. Go into our blue, start dragging it down just like that. Pulling it into the brush, tapping it in, maybe the smallest little bit of our black paint in there, just so it's not all the same. Just so it's not the same everywhere. Let's come up here. Look at those gorgeous dark colors. They're fantastic. We're going to leave some lighter areas for our blue to blend in. Maybe it's a little bluer here, a little darker over there. Goes out to the sunset, and we got some over on this side. Don't want to get it too close over here. Remember, it's going to grow, so let it give it room to grow. Right? Let's finish our edges. Gotta finish the sides. Makes it nice and gorgeous. And then your client can just hang it straight up. They don't need a fancy frame. Just hang it straight up like that. All right, let's wash the blue off of that brush and we'll get into it. All right, now we're going to take our clean dry brush, go into that little center area very softly because we want to keep it. Maybe drag some of that white outwards a little bit. Drag some of the orange in, just very lightly though. Keep it very bright. Then we're going to come up here and do the same thing. Drag our crimson in from different places. Drag some of the orange out, some of the crimson in. Back and forth, back and forth. It starts to make this gorgeous color. and just let it come down to right where our ocean is. But we don't want to go touch the blue and then come back. That would be bad. That would be disastrous. Okay, now that we're out here into the blue, look at how much it wants to grow inwards, right? You can take that blue and have it grow all the way back to your little yellow center, which is not what we want to do. Right, very lightly. You don't have to make hard strokes. I'm not trying to push the paint everywhere. Right, a little bit of our blue up here. Let it blend in with that reddish color. Very cool. Makes a difference. Differences in color. That's what we're always talking about around here. Because you can't just have this plain old blue sky. Nobody wants that. That's not very fun. Just have a plain color. It's never plain. Not when I look at it anyway. Very cool. Just like that. Let's wash that brush off again. We are getting a lot of practice at washing the brush in this one, let me tell you. Let me tell you. It's really so these, you know, the green, the blue doesn't turn into green in our sky. That's going to be a bad thing, right? Now we need to create some clouds. Kind of go around those guys. And these are where our two fan brushes are going to come in. We have one fan brush that's kind of darker for our shadowy colors. Then we have one for our lighter white color, right? Okay, so let's take our dark color brush and let's get a little bit of gray going. So we'll grab our white, grab our black. Might need to get some more black out. Maybe a little bit of crimson. We're just gonna mix these guys into like this very light color, grayish, purpley, crimson-y color, right? Don't want it to be too light because it's gonna get brighter when we go to stick it up here. Just a little gray. That way it's not gonna interact with any colors. It's gonna be fantastic. So maybe up here, just get that soft gray color. And oh, it just came all the way around and surround and blah, 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 blah. Very cool. Kind of going off to the side. Leaving some of those darker colors, right? You gotta have those things. They're very, very, very cool. Let's take that little bit of shadow again. And then we come in here. Got a little bit darker, right? There we go. Very cool. We're just kind of trying to create this little eye around our sun. It's gonna trap it inside. It's very neat. There we go. Very lightly. Just a little make a mess. Literally make a mess with it. That's all we're doing. We're gonna come up here. Let's just start pushing it that way. Push it up and away from that gorgeous color back there. You gotta save those pretty colors. That's why we painted them there. We gotta save them. Fantastic. Man, now it's all gonna be, how are we gonna light it up? How are we gonna shade it? What are we gonna do? A little bit more of that grayish color. Our white, black, maybe a smidge of crimson. Just a smidge, because we're gonna highlight them in different colors as well. Maybe out there, just got a little bigger. Kind of grew out over the side. Take that guy, blend him down. Remember, we don't have to highlight every single thing. So let's take and make him a little bit darker. Maybe this guy's more shadowy. Maybe we have two sets back there. Real far away, maybe a little bit closer. You know what I mean? Take them and blend them. What does yours look like? Yours is gonna look different than mine. It really is. It's so hard to get the same color mixture or the same amount of paints or this or that all on our brush all at the same time through watching a video. You know what I mean? Ooh, a little bit darker. There we go. I like that. Putting little dark areas inside mine because I like to have a lot of depth. And when we go over the top of it with our white paint, look how we just mix it up just very lightly, right? You get all those little differences. All the differences in the world. Very cool. Just let it blend off. Remember, we have to let it get light as it gets down to the horizon. You don't want it to be very dark down here. It's not going to make any sense. Just like that. Fantastic. Let's wash that dark color brush off. I know you guys love how I say it. Fantastic. Now remember, if this is your first Paint with Josh video or your 100th Paint with Josh video, tell me what time it is where you are. What's your favorite sandwich? And what are you going to do right after you paint this painting? And don't go anywhere because we're going to be doing the waves very soon. It's going to turn out awesome. Let's see. Let's come back here, get our white. Let's let it mix with some of that crimson though. Let it get kind of pinky. A little pinkish color. All right? Don't want to have too much crimson. And we're going to come up here. Maybe we got a little bit of that pinky color out here. Just let it float over the top of those little shadows back there. And we're going to take a nice clean dry brush. Very lightly start to mix it. Because as you mix it, it's going to mix with the color underneath and all go to that same kind of color, which is not what we want. We don't want it to all be the same, otherwise we would have just painted it all the same, right? Let's take that guy, pull out a little bit more of our white paint. run our brush through. Maybe on the underside of these guys, it changed a little bit. So we'll have these different colors, a little bit of white in there, a little bit of pink, a little bit of everything. Little bits of everything. Again, pushing them up towards that shadow, right? This is all of our bright area. That's all the shadow back there. Very light pushes, light little mixtures, light everything. All right, maybe come over here, grab some more of that pink. Maybe a little bit more crimson. Maybe it was up in here, some over here. All depends what you want yours to look like, right? Try something, see if it works. If it doesn't, then maybe we don't do that again next time, right? But just that little bit of pink out there, it's gonna grab someone's eye, I'm telling you. Don't overmix. Don't have everything be all the same, right? If everything is the same, then we've lost all of our depth. And then your sky's gonna look like a cartoon or just a big mess, right? Come back, grab some more of that white paint. Maybe this guy down here. Start to fly out underneath that shadow. Over the top. Bam, 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 bam. Take our brush very, very lightly. Start to mix it down over the top of the shadow. And when you get down far enough, with enough pressure, it's all about paint and pressure, right? You get those cool clouds in there. Very neat. Very, very cool. Now, before we get too far away, let's grab that filbert brush that we have. Come into our white paint. Don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. Little bit onto the brush. We're gonna come up here into our brightest area, wherever you imagine that would be. Push flat and then rotate the bristles into a circle, right? Depending on the size of your filbert brush, you may have a very large sun or a very small one, depending on the size. Look how bright it is in there because we kept it pure white. Oof, my goodness. And the only reason it stayed bright like that, if you're like, oh, I put my sun on there and it started to go yellow. Well, remember how we tried to leave that bright area on the inside? That's why. So our white stays as bright as it can possibly be. Very cool. Very cool. Let's grab up a little bit more of our white paint. Maybe we can just pop in just a couple details if we just dab them in, right? Just dab it in, just like that. Don't worry about it. Go over very lightly. It's gonna make little differences. See those cool little details? Little things, little brighter areas, little darker areas, a little bit where the light kind of kissed it. Maybe there was some out here. Who knows? Just play around until you like how it looks. That's all the sky is. How does yours look? How do you like it? Because if you don't like it, then you're not going to have confidence showing it to people. Other people aren't going to like it. It's just not going to fly. You're the one that has to like it the most. So stop asking people what they think and just go with it. Woo! Very cool. Maybe we had some brighter areas out here, just in different places, right? Not on any certain part of the cloud. And we can just use our imaginations about what's out there. Very cool. Don't want to put too much paint though. Definitely, that is a concern. We're going to take our brush very lightly, go up from the bottom, across the whole thing, side to side, so light, like we're barely touching the canvas. We're not trying to pull any movement or anything, right? Very neat. Gorgeous. Gorgeous little thing. All right, now we got some clean utensils. We're going to come back and make some faraway mountains. So what I want to do is make a very light color gray, almost like the color of our clouds, right? I'm going to grab up some black and white, and we'll come down here. Make this very far away gray color. You can always go back, add a little bit of black, a little bit of crimson, maybe a little bit of blue, just to make this nice far away color. And then we'll decide, maybe back here, who knows, we had this little far away thing that was just coming down. Bam, just like that. Like this very neat, far away little mountain. Little pops. I never like it to be perfect, right? Now we're going to leave a lot of the color out here on the edge because as we pull it back, it's going to become lighter, and that's the secret to creating the distance, right? You have your darker side, you have your lighter side, you get these very far away little things back there to who knows where it comes down and touches, right underneath our clouds. Very cool. Very cool. Let's make it a little bit more pronounced, a little bit darker color, just so there's a disconnect in there. And then who knows, maybe there's a little shadow on this side. Who knows? You just play with it. Play with it, pull it out, turn it around. Very far away. Cool little thing. Just exactly like we wanted it to be. Now we're going to come in and take a little bit more of our black, a little bit more crimson, a little bit more blue, come down here into that same pile so it's just a different color. Maybe snag a little bit of our brown. We don't want it to be too dark though, but it has to be a different color than the color back here. And so maybe this guy was like, just came straight down, started to pop himself down into our water over here. Right? Again, depending on how far you come down, depends on what your little guy looks like. Leaving a lot of our color out here on the edge, so when we pull him back, he'll become lighter. And we can start to change things, sliding it back into nothing, right? Maybe he comes down here, we bounce our brush, we come over here, and bing, bang, boom. We have this little bit of a darker color that's now able to push that other mountain way back. So far back, we don't even know how far away he lives, right? Deep back there. Now, let's take our light colored brush. Why don't we come into our white color, a little bit of our crimson. We can make that little pinkish color again, just like we have with our clouds. And say maybe we'll come and use this just with our fan brush, just kind of bouncing it around, allowing all that little pink color to kind of shine in there. Not covering over all of our shadows because we need that disconnect of color to help it, right? Maybe down in here, get these cool little details. Maybe the sun came down, just kissed it just a little bit. Just a little touch. That's all you want. And if you want it to be brighter, you can come back with a palette knife. You can come back and do it again. You can do all sorts of stuff. And we need ours to be a little bit darker. So why don't we come in here? If we can get any paint on any part of the brush we can use. Right, so let's slide him back this way. Take his shadow back away from there. Let's see if we can't save a little bit. It needs to be a little bit darker. If all that brightness is on there, I don't want him to be too much the same. Right? Maybe this guy came straight down and then kind of bounced over. All depends on what you want your little piece of rock to look like, right? Now we've got our cool little piece of pink in there still. You can even come back with a palette knife if you wanted to. Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it isn't. Depends on what's easier for you, right? Take that little bit of dark just to dull it just a little. You don't want it to be so super bright. And maybe up here, we can add our couple little details, leaving a lot of that mountain, that grayish color though. You don't want to add too many little highlights. It's going to take it all away. Your highlights won't make sense. Just a little bit of pink, and if it's ever too pink in one area, just go over it a couple more times. It'll come off there. There we go. It'll all mix in, and you end up getting these very cool little things. Just a little bit of paint though. Don't need a whole lot. That's why it doesn't even come off my brush my knife very easily, because there's not a whole lot of paint back there. All right, very cool. Maybe we had one more little piece of this guy. Came like, I don't know, rolling in. There's a whole nother little bit of his mountain, another little bit of shadow back there. Another little bit where we can play with, right? A little bit of darkness, leading back and away. Again, getting lighter as it goes back down there. Very cool. You can take a little bit of that pink, maybe on the front. Just to show the little bit of difference in there. And again, rub it in until it mixes in. Doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect, that's for sure. All right, now we're really gonna darken it up. So we'll get the black, the crimson. Let's get some brown. And come down here into that pile. We really want it to be a darker color than before. And obviously not just straight up black, but a good, nice, good brownish, deep brown color. That crimson, maybe a little of our phthalo green. Woo! Now we're gonna come in and make our next little bit of mountain, which maybe it had a little guy out here, right? And come down, and it had a whole nother section that was a little bit taller, a little bit darker, more filled in, right? Very cool. Little jagged piece of rock. All depends on what you want yours to look like. And again, keeping little bits of that original mountain color. That's our mist kind of in between each layer, right? All depends on what you look like, how you pull down with your brush is what your mountain's gonna look like over here. So be careful, right? Boom. And we've got all this stuff happening. Very cool. And now we know exactly where we can come in with our water and start hammering out little details, right? Very neat. Wipe it away. See that thing back there that we don't like? Just wipe it away, mix it, blend it. And all of a sudden you got a cool little thing happening. All right, let's come back and just for a real quick highlight, grab our brown, grab our white, maybe grab our yellow ochre, just like that. Don't want to be too bright, so make sure you got enough brown there. We don't want it to be like bright daffodil yellow color. We want it to be like an earthy brown, right? All of your bright colors tends to stay on the bottom, so mix it up one more final time. And then we'll come in here, just start bouncing stuff in. It's gonna live, it's gonna mix. It's gonna have all these little things, all these different little shadows as it slightly drops color, really wherever it wants. Right? Maybe pull it down over here. Let's get some of that darker color. Really add in our little textury, shadowy highlights. All these techniques you can use on regular mountains, on things you would normally paint. And we had a little bit come up, come down. You gotta make those sounds though, otherwise it doesn't work. That's the one thing. Will not work without the sounds. Very cool, just like that. Don't need a whole lot. Anywhere that you don't like it, you just blend over it a little bit more. And now you got these very neat looking rocks. It all depends on how you pull your brush or your knife. Depends on what it's gonna look like. Right? A little bit of detail down on the shore down here. You can take it, you can scrape it, you can mix it away, you can do all sorts of stuff very simply and easily. Right? But leave little differences. Leave light areas, leave dark areas. Light on the top, dark on the bottom. It's a play of light and dark, back and forth. All right, very cool. Let's wash these brushes off. All right, now we've got to start coming in and deciding where are we going to have our land, right? And in this one, I don't want a whole lot of back ocean. There's a lot of spray. There's a lot of movement happening right here. So we don't need a whole lot of ocean in the back. Let's take our white paint, maybe a little bit of our yellow color over here, just a little, just to brighten it up in different areas. And we've taken our crimson and put it underneath. Originally, I showed you guys. Put the crimson, we have our phthalo green, phthalo blue, and then our brown down here. So where we go across, look at all that gorgeous color. My goodness. Right, we're gonna come over here, maybe our oceany waves just start happening way off. And look at how they start to go green as we go over here into our greener section, right? Don't need a whole lot. Leave a good area before you put in your next little bit of straight line. Right, just like that. Now we're gonna spread it. We don't need a whole lot of paint. Don't need a whole lot, right? Take this guy, push him out, push this guy against the shore, leave little dark areas, leave little light areas, leave those things. You need the light and dark to play on each other. Back and forth is how they're gonna go. Back and forth is the game they like to play. And we got a little bit of white line out like this. Take in any little piece we can and just slide it back, but we don't want to touch that next little bright line back there, right? And that could be our little piece of wave coming in. But again, we don't want to overdo it and start messing with the stuff back there. Right, maybe we had him come over here too. This side we start mixing back the other way. Taking him back so it looks like our water's starting to come in at different angles, right? Always got to have that little bit of light and underneath him a little bit of darkness. And in this case, since we're using crimson, why don't we go with just a straight crimson, maybe a little bit of black mixed in with it. And just underneath that light area, if you add that little line of dark, it'll help your wave kind of stand up a little bit. Right? It's got to stand up. It's got a little bit of movement. And look at these lines. They're not just dead straight lines. There's a little bit of movement to them. Okay, I'm going to take that guy very lightly because I don't want the dark to grow very far. We got to keep him tight underneath that white. Yeah, and now we have our next little piece that we can start sliding water back to. Okay, so let's wash this brush. Get a nice clean fan brush. Let's even switch to a brand new smaller fan brush, okay? Just because we got a couple harder details on these waves way off in the back. Take that white with the yellow, just like that. Very cool. You can see he needs a trim, this guy. Now, our next little bit of crashing water seemed like it was coming in from back here. So let's go over here. Again, it's not a straight line. It's never a straight line. I can't stand a seascape that has a straight line in it. Right, like that. Take this guy same direction though. Once you decide to start pulling one direction, you cannot change that direction. So pull it off to the same side, right? Helps the water look like it's going in the same direction. Leave that little darkness underneath again. There we go. Very cool. Now I believe we had a little bit, there was like a little crashing wave over here. So let's throw in just a little bit of foam, right? There's not much to discern what's happening over here. We do need our little tiny little eye. You can even take a filbert brush since it's such a small little area and just widen out that eye just a little bit, leaving that dark disconnect line around there. If you're like, oh Josh, I lost my line, that's okay. I did too. Happens every so often. All right, come in here. Gotta have that little disconnect. It helps the wave look more rounded, right? All about these lines. They all determine the angle and the shape of your wave. Not a whole lot of happening on that one back there. Luckily for us, right? Now we've got, let's see. Since we've got that little guy, why don't we do a little bit more of our white. And who knows, let's start to just pretend there was a little bit of water coming from back here maybe. Just starting to slide its way back into that wave. Very far away. Not even going to have them curl up too much. Don't want them to curl. It's not a, we're not showing a whole lot of detail back here, right? Waves kind of crashing down onto itself. Maybe back in there it starts to curl and we got this whole little piece starting to come together. Very cool. Very cool. Now let's do, we're gonna bring our big crasher in. What if we came like that? From the side, we could do all sorts of stuff. That's the fun part. You're like, what's the hardest part about painting a seascape? Deciding where you want to put things. Take our darkness up underneath, just so he's got a little bit of detail, like it wants to roll over. All right, now we're gonna do, why don't we have one more little bit of crashing wave back here. All right, so now we can take this guy, slide him back. He becomes part of that last wave back there. And then if we come up here like this, we can start our crasher, right? This guy, we're gonna rotate back. A lot of motion in this piece. You can't really tell where the water really starts to come from. There we go. It's coming from everywhere. Very cool. And we may end up losing some of this. No, we may not. You might be able to keep it. We'll see what it looks like. Again, you guys have already seen it. I'm about to paint it right now. Let's see, our water crashed over there. We had all the spray. Just like that. So we need to take our wave based off of that little measurement we did, right? And come in here. We come up a little bit higher. It has to be brighter. And then we're going to start to rotate over. And then it starts on another curve. So we're going to do the same rotations, but sort of up. You know what I mean? Different little angle. Like that, coming down. And then we get this whole big crasher that's happening. I'm going to take some of our pink, put it back in here. There we go. As we start coming down into the blue section, it's going to want to change on us. Now let's get our little bit of our eye in here, right? This guy can be a little bit bigger, the eye of our wave. Because this one's got a lot more detail, but again, we're trying to keep this dark disconnect back in there. We don't need a whole lot of nothing. There we go. Let it rotate, let it grow a little bit. Don't want to grow too much though. The sun's just barely coming in through there. just barely. You take that whole wave, start to pull it back that way, just making it soft. Going back to our crashing water back there. Very cool. Then we can add a whole lot of details on that. And then our wave is going to go back in here. We're going to end up crashing. We're going to rotate. It's going to come all the way back, just so I can see it in my brain. Okay, now we need to come in with our dark crashing foam, right? So in order to do that, it can't just be straight black again. Mix your black and your crimsons, snag up some white, bring it back over here to our little grayish pile. Doesn't have to be so black that you can't see it. You don't want it to be super bright either. So we're going to come up here, just start tapping upwards, right? And try to stay out of your way. Tap up like that. Start to create that S-shaped curve, right? And then we started to come over here. And something happened where it just blasted onto a rock over here. We're going to make ours come a little bit higher. Very cool. All right? All depends on what you want yours to look like. Now we can come back with our lighter color brush. Dip into our liquid white, which is very runny white. Come back up here into our white color. Maybe a little bit of our pink as well. Both sides of our brush. And then again, tapping above the top of the shadow, just with the tip. Right? You start to build your flowing water as it's coming over. I like to rotate the brush over every so often, spin it a certain way, dab it here, dab it there. And you get all this cool bit of water starting to come to life, right? Take a little bit of our liquid white in the areas where it's just gray, add a couple little dabs. I like turning the brush and rotating so they're not all the same shape, and you get all this cool bit of water kind of crashing down. Very neat, very neat, right? We can take this guy, make him our beach back there. Take some of our water, maybe we'll grab some yellow, some of our white, some of our yellow, and who knows, maybe back in here just a littlest bit. Just had a couple little details that we almost forgot to do. Right, remember, pull these guys down straight, swipe it over, and you get that wet sandy beach look back there, right? Like it's about to crash down on something cool. Very neat. Maybe we could even sneak in one little piece of our wave way back there, like it was kind of crashing in towards the horizon. And a little bit pull off the top, just back there, just to help our brains, right? Just to make it, there we go. Man, now we got that whole extra piece of water back there that we almost forgot. Don't tell anybody we forgot that. There we go. Again, pull it down underneath. You can always come back and fix this guy, or take him and really mix him up very soft like a cloud. Some places, not other places. All depends on what you want yours to look like. Again, come back in with our little bits of liquid white. Just tap in our details. Very cool. All this difference in color and our splash. Looks very neat. You get these little yellow bits. Very cool. Very, very neat. And again, the more you mess with it, the less it's going to look like water. So decide what you want it to do. This guy we're going to rotate back as he's coming into shore, right? Very cool. Very cool. Now we're going to take our little 1-inch brush very lightly. Don't curl up right away. That's not what the wave wants to do. It doesn't want to curl straight up right away. And if you leave it dark, you'll have this very cool shadow like it's about to roll over the top, right? You do want to make sure your angles are still right. Man, very cool. Get this cool little thing starting to happen. Cool little things start to happen when we start playing around. And we can let our whole thing just grow out. It's going to be crazy. Right? Like out here. It's a lot of foam out here. So we're going to go back and forth. Have all these details. Even have a rock crashing down here. We're going to have all this watery movement, right? Leave a lot of dark area though. Doesn't need to be all super bright. Take our 1 inch or 2 inch brush or 1 inch brush, whatever you want. Pull it back. Don't lose your dark area though. Don't lose that dark. Very cool. We get all this watery, sandy stuff. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. Going to be fantastic. Now, I want to put a little bit of a rock back in here. So a little black, little crimson, a little brown. Mix them up. Come in here. I want to have something splashing. It's going to be splashing on something to me. Very cool. Watch, you can even scrape up all that liquid white and all that extra paint that you don't want right there. Come back in and it'll really stick nice for you. That liquid white is designed to keep everything nice and slick, and that's not what you want. You want a big, thick bit of paint here that our other highlights can adhere to, right? Don't want them to be too crazy. There we go. Then you can decide where you want your water to come up and splash around that guy. All depends on what you want to do. Take your liquid white. You can go around him. You can do all sorts of stuff just by making a mess, literally. Make a mess, you've already got water right around the edge of that guy. All right. Now you can see you have to come up over the top of your horizon with that spray. There we go. Again, I never like it to be too much exactly the same. So every so often I dab in a few little bits of our just pure liquid white off the tip, teeniest little corner of the brush. Just like that. Same thing you could do right here. Take a few. They're about to come down and hit the ground right there. All right, if you're lucky enough, you can get smallest little flick like it's falling. Very cool. About to come down and smash. All right, now, let's see. We had all this stuff here. So let's come in. Again, we have our big thick area. All of our waves. There we go. Don't want it to be all the same amount of color. So you got to give it room for differences, right? Got to have your differences. There we go. Now we really can't tell where our foam is, where our wave is, what's happening. Let's take a little bit of our liquid white into our titanium white up here and come around the edge, and maybe on the top of this guy there was like a little bit of rotation, right? See how far I went back? You can't just come and turn around so soon, right? It's never going to work that way in a real wave. Never going to work that way. And try not to do what I just did. Don't come up here and do that. Nobody wants to see any color up there. You want to have that darkness. If you bring too much color up here, it's just not going to look right. So you go back, take your paper towels, go back and make this guy dark again. Wipe that light colored paint away. Right? There we go. Nice. Just like that, as the canvas wants to fall out of the old easel. Okay. Maybe take this guy. There we go. Couple little things. You don't need it crazy. You got to have that rotation. You have to have that darkness underneath. You don't want it to be, can't pollute your color, right? I just can't get it as dark as I want it to be. There we go. Don't pollute all your color of your wave with light. You have to keep a lot of darkness in there. You want that air of mystery. What's happening? Littlest bit of liquid white is the lip of our wave. It's about to roll over and crash down onto us. Very cool. Like this guy over here, maybe he's already got a little bit of crash to him. So our water is going to look a little different. Right, like right here, maybe he's also starting to fall over. He's like, ah, I'm crashing in on us. Don't know what to do. Light up some of that color. Light up the differences, right? Little things, dragging little bits of our liquid white back to match up to whatever's going on back behind your little bit of wave. But you gotta have something back there. Gotta have something. So let's say this guy, why don't we curl over the other way? Right? Yeah, that'll be cool. Okay, let's do this. Again, don't pollute our area with light. Wipe it off. That's the fun thing about these Ross tutorials that he never made a video for. You just got to make it up on your own. There we go. Now, instead of having anything crashing there, we're going to put something else. We'll put like a rock. We'll do something. Maybe we'll do we could do the crash. Come on. Right? Say the water was coming in over here, and it just started to just rotate and rotate a little bit further and a little bit further. Nothing crazy, right? Just coming down. Same thing. We're going to come back. Feed our wave back. Not straight, but just back enough, right? Got to have our angles line up. Perfect. Now, we're going to take our dark color, our black, crimson, blue, green, doesn't matter. Don't really need brown in our shadows over here, though. We're going to come down, creating that kind of curve, right? And get splashed over the side. Keep that darkness in there. That's what's going to sell it. All that dark color, right? Maybe a little bit of white underneath. Take our brush very lightly, just so we have a little bit of light kind of shining through our water there. Maybe a little over here as well. Gotta help it. Gotta help it. Two little bits of eye are about to meet. Very cool. It's crashing opposite ways. I just can't decide what I want to do with this painting. Let's see. Remember, keep it dark. Do not pollute it with our light. We can keep going over and over again until it makes sense to our brains about what we want to do with all this extra space. There we go. That makes a little bit more sense in my brain. That makes a little bit more sense. Now, there we go. All right. Now let's try to work with this guy, right? Got a little bit of water there, but we're mainly going to pull back from this edge. Feed it back. Water is never all going around the same way. It doesn't ever have to go around the same way. It's literally whatever you want it to be. And a little bit more white just to brighten it up. Just like that. Very cool. I like it to be nice and rippled around the edge. And that's how water is. It's not just a perfect straight line. There may be a little bit where it wants to roll over a little bit more than normal. There we go. Come up, mix it in with our little bit of rotating shadowy water right there, and that helps tie everything in together. There we go. Gonna hide our little bit of dark line back in there. Just helps everything want to rotate over. There we go. Grab some of our liquid white. Perfection. Perfection. Couple little dark lines. You don't need a whole lot, right? Just little veins in our eyeballs. That's all you want. A few little bits. Nothing really crazy, right? Nothing crazy. Now, let's take our white paint. And we're going to come down here and start to create our foam, right? And for me, I like having a fair amount of paint on the brush, just so it stays bright. Start to pull itself up into our wave. Just like that. You can use the knife, you can use all sorts of stuff. Right? Maybe around here on the bottom, they had all sorts of details, little different things going on, stuff happening everywhere. Pieces that connected, pieces that didn't connect. All sorts of just mess. This whole bit of foamy nonsense. They were crisscrossing. They were going every which way they could go. And it was very, very cool. There we go. Mixing our little bit of kind of wavy, foamy highlights back in with our sandy water. There we go. Very. Let's see if we can't turn this guy a little bit more green. Throw some yellow in here. Just have it mix with that blue. Get all sorts of cool little things happening back here. All sorts of stuff. There we go. Gotta have these differences in color in there. A little shine off the sand. Very neat. I'm gonna take a little bit of our dark and come back underneath here. Pull that little bit of darkness right in there. Now, very, very, very lightly. That way we don't get rid of all that dark. Right? Because it wants to blend in with that light and go away. And if we let it go away, we're gonna really be upset with ourselves. Look at that. Very cool. Sometimes it's easier if we do it with a knife. Come in here, shake it in. Little bits of darkness. Help our wave kind of sit up just a little bit. Right underneath all that foam. Gives it that little bit of lift. Right, come back over with our titanium white right over the top of that dark line. Right, same angles. And now our foamy highlights are looking like they're sitting up there, just hanging out. Just hanging out. Get our titanium white. See if we can't get it to come off the knife. Very bright areas like that. Just like that, very cool. Take our foam, all sorts of stuff happening. See if we can't get a little bit of brighter highlights up here on our wave top, just by adding in a little liquid white with our titanium white. Get that crash, but I want to keep all those beautiful colors as well. You don't want to lose all those colors. Keep those beautiful little pinks and blues and all that water just moving. Moving at us. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, I want to have a little bit of a bigger rock than normal down here. All right, so I'll get that blue, black, crimson mix. Real dark. The darkest color that we've used so far. Come up, maybe we got a little bit of rock that just started out here. And it's much more in the foreground than any other thing we got going on. Big old sucker. We can hide whatever we don't want to show. Because I don't want to have a whole lot of detail. I don't want to have a whole lot of detail with all that water, all of this brightness. Very cool. It's chucked down, right down there. Now we're going to take all that dark paint, start to pull it down, covering up all of our lighter colored areas, right? Pull it down. Don't let it blend in too much. We're going to have to cover up the whole thing too. So get down in here. All that nice deep dark blue-black paint that's way down here. And then we can feed our rock just like that. Now we'll be able to shape our rock. Now maybe I want to come in here with a little bit of our brown. Again, a little yellow ochre. Mix them up right down in here. Now we're going to come back over here, grab up our guy. Just start making all sorts of jaggedy things happen on this rock. Big pulls. Big long swipes. And get those cool little things to happen. These different color browns. All this stuff that starts to happen. You pick up little bits of light. You never have to see everything. All this rock. The parts that we don't see, our eyeball's going to look at and go, oh, I know what's going on down there. I know what they did down there. Right? Just like that. Don't even need to see the whole thing. Very cool. Get all those gorgeous colors in our foam. It's fantastic. We are missing a little bit around the edge of our rock, though. Coming up around the side. Very cool. They don't all have to be the same length or the same shape or anything like that. Just make them look different. Make them look unique. There we go. You have to look unique. And that way they'll be uniquely yours. Very neat. There we go. Just kind of sliding my little bit of foam, filling up that dark area. You're never going to see it all, right? It's going to start to curve itself up the wave, but not right away. It's got to take a while for it to rotate backwards. Very cool. Now, what if we did just a little bit, maybe there was couple little lines in there that were disconnected from each other. A couple little horizontal lines, that's all you need. A little bit more motion, a little bit more detail in there. Now, I take our red and crimson, well, our red and yellow ochre anyway. Right in there like this. We're going to come down underneath and just pull straight down. See if we can't get just a little bit of a yellowy glow in our sand. Don't want to go all the way to the bottom though, right? We never want to go to the bottom. Otherwise, what's going to happen? We're all going to have the same color and it's not going to be good. A little bit of that darkness, you can pull it out in front of your waves. Small little things, and the more we mix, the more that sandy look you're going to have. Very neat. Now, let's do another little bit of water line like it was kind of rushed in a little sooner. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe it connected to this guy. And he started feeding its way back in, right? You get all this stuff that happens out in the water. All this movement. Maybe that guy fed in over here, but then he bounced out and came back over here and started feeding back in this way. But you want to leave all of those cool differences, all those neat little things. It's so cool how it does that all for us, right? Start coming out here, you're making a little bit more. A couple more little things. You never know how it gets sucked back into this little cove back here. You don't live there. You can't tell me it's not going to look like that. Very neat. Very neat. A little bit of pink out there on the edge of our foam. All these differences in light and color. Fantastic. We got this guy out here. It's got just a little bit of that kind of base underneath our foam. Maybe we don't even like that guy. We just take them and go like this. All depends what you want yours to look like. Right? And that's it. Very simply done. This guy, very soft. Back across our whole thing, get this wicked amount of water movement. Everything's rocking and rolling. A little bit of pink out here, why not? Why not? Just because we got it on the knife, still on the palette, we can add all these little gorgeous colors out here. Just like that. Scrape them in. That's why the knife is designed like this. To scrape. All right. Let's get our dark color down here. And we'll go sign it over on this side. Try to stay incognito over here. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough. Not too bright, not too dark. Just like that. Maybe we'll brighten it up just a little. Just a little bit. Alrighty. Oops. Now, for the last part, if you've never seen a Paint with Josh video, we have to have the birds. And you're like, what are the birds? The birds represent my family. And they go into every single painting that we do around here. Now, in order to paint them, they're very simple little birds. Just a couple little M shapes, right? So let's say the first guy was out like that, and like that. And like that. That represents myself, my wife, and my daughter, and they go into every single Paint with Josh painting. So I always encourage you to do that with your own family. If you've got 5, 6, 7, 10 people in your family, do it. It's a lot of fun. You'll end up having fun. They'll end up having fun. It's a lot to, very cool to be included in a painting. So let's clean off these brushes, and then we'll get out of here, right?